Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our the GDPR webinars. So this is the first in our series of webinars. The first one today is for data privacy induction training. So let's just wait for about 5 minutes more. We'll wait for more people to join in, and we should start soon then. Right, I think we can begin. Good morning, everyone. So before I start with the webinar, let me take you through a quick introduction of what RiskPro is. So we are an Indian consulting firm, and our main areas of service are into risk advisory, internal audits, into technology. We offer different kinds of software through our technology partners. We also offer trainings through webinars, in-person trainings, as well as recruitment. We have been in business for 7 years plus. We have about 350 clients and are spread across 7 cities. And we have a strong core team member of 45 people. So this would be the agenda for today's webinar. The session would be for about 45 to 50 minutes, and post which we leave the last 5 to 10 minutes for all the question and answers. And if you do have any questions during the webinar, please mention it in the chat section. So I'll now hand over to Ms. Sucheta so that she can continue and take the webinar. Sucheta?
Yes. Anita, am I audible?
Yes.
Hello. Okay. And are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. I'm Sucheta. I'm Senior Vice President of Information Security at RISCO, and I'd like to take you through a few basics of GDPR today. So GDPR is General Data Protection Regulation. It came into effect a year ago on 25th of May 2018. So GDPR came into effect with primarily two objectives. One is for protecting fundamental rights and freedoms of natural persons, and in particular their right to the protection of personal data. And second, the most important reason is free movement of personal data within the union. What GDPR says that this free movement of personal data, it shall not be restricted or prohibited for reasons connected to the protection of natural persons with regard to processing of the personal data. So these are the two primary objectives why GDPR came into effect in last year, 25th of May 2018. Now, there are four fundamental concepts which we have to understand. See whom does GDPR apply to? What is the scope of GDPR? So let's go through these concepts one by one. One of the concept is personal data. So what is personal data? So personal data is any information identifiable natural person. When we so this person is also a state subject who is identified or identified person who can be identified either directly or indirectly. So what it means is that an identified natural person is one who can be identified directly or indirectly, particular by reference to the identifiers like a name or identification number or location data or online identifiers such as IP address. So this definition is broad and fairly encompassing, but it also includes any information relating to an identified individual uh, and any information relating to someone who could be identified based on various identifiers. So definition for identified person is relatively straightforward. So for example, you may be an identified person to your school or your employer or your landlord, and based on your driving license or work authorization. So these could be the identified person who could be identified directly. Identifiable person, it could get a bit confusing. So identifiable person could be identified directly or indirectly. So if someone goes to a coffee shop every morning before work and pays through a credit card, that person's card makes the person directly identifiable to the merchant. Okay? Which means that data on his coffee purchasing history uh, and it entitles him to certain rights and protection. But if that person pays by cash and redeems a voucher which was given to him, it would still, the voucher ID would still make him identifiable person, and would be the merchant would be able to track his other information which he might be having earlier. So what includes the personal data? It includes name, it includes address, it includes localization, your location data, online identifiers such as IP address, health information, which is considered as a special category of information, income, cultural profile. So these are the identifiers uh, which could be part of personal data, and these are not the only one. There could be many more identifiers which are which can be considered as personal data as per GDPR. Another concept which we need to understand is processing. So processing is any operation or set of operations which is performed on personal data or on sets of personal data. So we spoke about what could be the personal data, and any operation which is performed on that personal data, it is called as processing. So that operation could be done manually or through automated means. So for example, if an organization is collecting the data, personal data, recording the personal data, structuring the personal data. So structuring or organization could also mean having just an Excel spreadsheet which includes data of the people whom you want to send the marketing B2B marketing emails, storing the data, alteration of the data, using the data, updating the data, disclosing, transmitting the data to third parties like cloud service provider. So any of these operations, including accessing the data, is considered as processing as per GDPR. So we spoke about two concepts, personal data and processing. What what material scope within GDPR says is that this processing of personal data, it could be by automated means, or by it could be other than automated means, which is form of filing system, which are intended to be part of filing system. Uh, and the territorial scope, about which territories does it apply to. So it definitely applies to the organizations who are within EU, within European Union. It also applies to the organizations outside European Union. So let's say an organization is processing the personal data of data subjects who are in the union, but the organization itself is outside the union. So although the organization is outside the union, that organization would have to comply to GDPR. So territorial scope is basically, it says that the regulation applies to the processing of personal data in the context of activities of the establishment, that's an organization, of controller or processor in union, regardless of where the processing takes place in union or not. So when we say controller, there's one more thing which we will have to discuss before we go ahead. When we say controller, it is data controller. So data controller is an entity who decides purpose of collecting the data and means of processing. So we spoke about data subject. Data controller is the entity who would be responsible for identifying the purpose of processing and means of processing. And processor is another entity who acts on behalf of controller. So who processes data as per the instructions which are given by controller. So what GDPR says is that the GDPR regulation applies to the processing of personal data in context of activities of establishment, processing activities of establishment of a controller or processor in the union, regardless of whether the processing takes place in the union or not. It also applies to the processing of personal data of data subjects who are in union, whether by a controller or processor not established in the union, but they are offering goods or services irrespective of whether the payment is required or not. And this applies to data subjects in EU. So it is not just EU citizens, it is residents in EU. So any other resident of any other country who is a citizen of any other country who is in EU, who is residing in EU, the regulation will apply to that person also. So let's take some example for territorial scope. So US company without any EU subsidiaries offering free social media service via a website hosted in the US to individuals across the globe. Will GDPR apply to it or not? Yes, GDPR would definitely apply to it. A Chinese flower delivery company allowing residents in EU to order delivery to friends in China, GDPR would still apply to it. There's an Australian retailer with a website for orders and deliveries. The website is accessible by EU residents and the website is in English. The currency in which this retailer accepts the payment is Australian dollars, and address fields on that website, it allows only Australian addresses. So it is not intended for the EU residents, although it is accessible by EU residents. So GDPR will not apply to this retailer need not comply to GDPR requirements, but this retailer will have to comply with Australian data privacy regulation. A tourist from US logs into the website from their local grocery store, from their hotel in EU, and they provide personal data for their US, of their address, delivery address in US, the credit card details to order, and which can be sent to their home in US. So even in this case, although this tourist is in European Union temporarily, in this particular scenario, GDPR will not apply. So GDPR is based on certain fundamentals and certain principles. The first principle is lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. So what it says is data needs to be processed lawfully. It needs to be processed in a transparent manner in relation with the data subject. Second principle talks about purpose limitation. So what it says is that data collected for specific and legitimate purposes. It cannot be used for anything other than the stated purposes. So where do we state these purposes, or where does the controller or processor state these purposes? They are stated typically in the privacy notice. They are stated typically when they're collecting the data from the data subjects. So if the data is what GDPR says is that the data collected for one purpose, it cannot be used for any other purpose. The third principle is data minimization, which talks about adequate and relevant and limited to collecting the data, relevant and limited to whatever the requirements are for which they are processed. So what it means is that you should not be collecting the data which is not required for processing. You should collect the data only you have decided the purpose for which you want to process the data. You need to collect the data which is required only for that processing. You should it prevents the controller and processor to collecting any other data. The fourth principle talks about ensuring that data is accurate. So it's accuracy. So data should be data which is personal data. It should be accurate and where necessary kept up to date. Any inaccuracies must be fixed or removed without undue delay. So let's say an organization is providing certain services to the to data subjects, and for which they need to use personal data of the data subjects, like address of the data subjects or phone number of the data subjects. They should provide a facility to the data subject to keep the data up to date. So ensuring accuracy is that organization's responsibility, and they need to provide facilities to keep the data accurate. Fifth principle talks about storage minimization or storage limitation. So what it means is data, that's personal data, it should be stored for as long as it is required as specified in the records of retention policy. So if any organization says that we will retain this data permanently, it will not be allowed by GDPR. So what GDPR says is that an organization and entity should have a retention policy which talks about different type of personal data it is processing and how long they are retaining the data and what is the basis for retaining the data. So it could be country level regulations, it could be different laws, it could be the contractual requirements. So if Indian IT service company who is processing certain data of European data subject, and the contract says that they should be retaining the data for 1 year after the contract is over, the entity should go by the contract. So that's storage limitation or storage minimization. The sixth principle talks about providing adequate security. So securing the data with appropriate security solutions, technical and organizational measures, which should protect against unauthorized or unlawful processing and against accidental loss, destruction, or damage. So which means that any data controller or processor who's processing personal data of the data subject should provide adequate security. So security could include encryption of the data, security could include having the access control rules, security could include taking the backups of the data. So any organization is responsible for providing especially the confidentiality and integrity to the personal data it has been processing. Also the controller is responsible as per GDPR. Controller shall be responsible and should be able to demonstrate compliance with all these principles which we discussed right now. So the accountability lies with the controller, and controller can pass on that accountability to the data processor through by means of a contract. So the first principle which we spoke about just now is lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. Transparency is informing the data subject what data is being collected about him or her, where is that data being stored, what is the purpose of collecting data, is it being transferred to the third party or not, what are the rights each data subject have, and how should they act, how should they exercise these rights, who is the point of contact in the organization who can be contacted for any data privacy related issues. So thus this transparency requirement is typically addressed through a privacy notice of the organization. What we mean by lawful, what GDPR means by lawful, is that if the data is collected by any of these six bases, then it is considered as lawful. So the first one is consent. So what GDPR says is that data subject has to give consent to the processing of his or her personal data for one or more specific purposes. So let's say you are submitting a form on a website and certain personal data about yourself is being collected. At bottom of the form you might see a note saying, this data will be used for so and so purpose and whether you consent or not, and there is a checkbox. So this is an example of the consent. What GDPR also says is that consent, wherever processing is based on consent, controller should be able to demonstrate that the data subject has consented to processing of his or her personal data. That means any organization, after collecting the consent, should store it, and that consent should be retrievable. So if later on, if any data subject complains saying that I have not consented for using my this data for so and so purpose, organization should have ability to retrieve the consent, find out when exactly the data subject has consented, what did he or she consented for, and so that they can demonstrate that the consent was taken. Organization should also provide data subject ability to withdraw the consent. So if you subscribe for a newsletter from a website, ideally with the newsletter, with the email which you get for newsletter, it should also have a facility to withdraw from getting the newsletter. So initially you might have consented to get the newsletter, but if you now want to withdraw from getting the newsletter, you should have ability to withdraw it. So that's some of the major requirements for the consent. This second requirement, second basis which is considered as lawful is contractual necessity. So an organization, if they have a contract with another organization for processing the data, that's typically we earlier spoke about IT service companies. So IT service companies have contract with their customers to process certain data. So processing under that would be considered as a contractual necessity. The third one is legal obligation. So legal obligation is processing the data is necessary for compliance with a legal obligation to which controller is a subject. So let's say data controller is undergoing any fraud investigation, they might have to reveal personal data based on investigation authorities' request. Vital vital interest, the third one on the right side, the vital interest, it is the processing of the data under whenever there's a matter of life and death. So let's say if any person is admitted to the hospital and unable to give his or her personal data, the doctors have authority to get that the personal data so that the treatment can be continued. But vital interest can be used only for such matters. It cannot be used in any other matter. So processing is necessary in order to protect the vital interest of the data subject or another data subject of another natural person. Public interest is processing is necessary for performance of tasks carried out in a public interest or in the exercise of official authority vested in the controller. So let's say any government is carrying out a certain task, collecting certain data to form a health policy. That could be in public interest, but then they have to establish it. So collecting the personal data is necessary for performance of the task carried out in the public interest. Only in that case, public interest is considered as a lawful basis. Legitimate interest is processing is necessary for the purpose of legitimate interest pursued by the controller or by the third party, except where such interests are overridden by the interest of fundamental rights and freedom of the data subject. So let's say you submit a query on a product website, organization who have multiple products, and then you submit a query on that website. They may use your data for sending for contacting you for initial marketing. So they should, to do that, they should establish that as a legitimate interest. But again, in this case, if they contact you first and then you say that you should not be contacted for marketing purpose, then they should note that you have withdrawn the consent and they should block your name against sending such marketing emails. So these are the 6 bases, lawful bases, under which GDPR allows you to process the data. So we spoke about consent and consent requirement, that the controller should be able to show that the consent is given freely and willingly, and should be able to show when the data subject consented. So last year, once GDPR came into place, before GDPR came into place, all the organizations who were they sent an emails to their existing contact list, asking them if they want to get the reconsent. So these are some of the examples. So this is an example which shows that a tea shop which is sending a consent to their users, asking if they would like to get emails from them or not. So there are various, some of the consents were sent very creatively, and they have given the options to update the preferences or withdraw the consent in their emails. So this is another option which talks about, which provides the option for unsubscribing. Some of the consents are very clear, were very clear. So they had clearly said that click on yes, I confirm that I will allow you to process my data, and the second button is I do not consent to allow you to process my data. So it was very clear. What typically, one of the best ways to provide consent is, let's say if you're going to contact the data subject through various means, through SMS and emails and phone calls, then ideally you should take separate consent for each of them. The best way to take it is have different checkboxes for different mode of communications. So this communication, so user can select a communication preference, and later on the organization should also provide a means to update the preferences. So today, if somebody has said that they would like to get contacted through SMS, there should be an update preferences link given by organization, so that the user can withdraw that consent and opt for email contact instead of that. Another principle, important principle which we spoke about is security, confidentiality and integrity of the personal data. So these are some of the means which the organization can take for protecting the data. Pseudonymization and encryption of the data, regular testing and assessing and evaluating effectiveness of technical and organizational measures. So organization should have information security management system which would have policies and procedures for various activities. It should have organizations could possibly think of automating certain activities, performing certain activities such as vulnerability assessment, penetration testing periodically. So all these things are a part of security of processing. Other than principles, there is one more important concept in GDPR is data subject rights. So GDPR gives a data subject a right, eight rights, which includes right to information. So right to information is data subject has a right to know what data is being collected, why it is being collected, how it would be used, and how will it be protected. So that's right to information typically implemented by organizations through a privacy policy or privacy notice, which is published on their website. Right to access the personal data is any data subject should know that what kind of data is being collected by organization. So there is some data which is collected directly, there is some data which is collected indirectly. For example, if a website is using Google Analytics, or a website has cookies, then it can collect a lot of data about yourself indirectly. So any data subject has right to know what data is being collected and should have access to that personal data which is being collected by the organization. A right to rectification. So data subject should have right to rectify the data about himself or herself, especially when any organization is providing service based on the data. For example, the data subject should have a facility to update his or her phone number or address based on the services they're receiving. A right to erasure is so data subject should have a right to obtain from controller the erasure of personal data. A data subject can inform the data controller that I'm no longer taking your services, so I want you to delete my data. Okay. So deleting the data, right, for erasure is a bit complicated to implement, primarily because data could reside at many places. Data could be in the database. It could also, somebody in the organization might have made multiple copies of the data. Data could reside in the logs. Data could also reside in the backups. So implementing this right to erasure would be a little complicated, would be a little difficult for the organization. A right to object is right to object certain kind of processing. So, for example, if the personal data is being processed for direct marketing purposes, the data subject would have the right to object at any time of processing, and informing to the data controller that my data cannot be used for marketing or any purpose. A right to restrict processing is if the data is being used for multiple purposes, then data subject can say that, okay, you can use my data only for so and so purpose. Let's say somebody has a bank account in a bank, had a bank account in bank account, and they had closed the account, but bank would still have to keep the data for regulatory purpose. Then the data subject can say that, okay, you should use it only for the regulatory purpose. Do not use it to send me emails about your investment schemes or investment products. A right to data portability is the data subject would have the right to receive the personal data concerning him or her which they have provided to the controller in a structured, commonly used and machine readable format, and have the right to transmit that data to another controller. So let's say there's a data subject who is taking health services from a hospital, and that person want to change the hospital. In that case, the data subject would have right to change, right to get that data from one hospital and provide it to the other hospital, and the first hospital is liable to give that data in machine readable format, such as Excel spreadsheet, which can be transferred, which can be imported by the other organization. The last one is rights for automated rights against automated profiling. So what it means is that data subject should have would have the right not to be subject of decision based on automated processing, including profiling. So let's say based on certain parameters or surroundings of the certain criteria surroundings of the data subject, there are organizations taking certain decisions like limiting the credit limit or refusing the loan. So data subject suspects that such action has been taken, then they can challenge the organization, saying that I have right against automated profiling. What GDPR also says is that the data, especially the data subject access requests, they need to be answered within 30 days. So organizations should develop capability to address the data subject rights within 30 days. Only in case of right to erasure, organization, what GDPR says that it has to be addressed as soon as possible. It doesn't give a cap of 30 days in right for erasure. So we spoke about the principles and the data subject rights. Now, how are these typically implemented? So data subject, data controller, that's the entity, collects the data from data subject. They might send it to a processor, and the processor might have sub-processor who would process their data. So these responsibilities are implemented through a contract. So again, as I mentioned, we have taken the example of an IT service company. IT service company would have a contract with their customers, who is the controller of the data. They would so through the contract they would ask IT service company, who is a processor, to implement certain things. There are standard contractual clauses. IT service company, if they are using another third-party provider for processing the data, then they would have agreement with that processor, and that sub-processor would have agreement with their sub-processor if there is any. So it's called as this agreement, especially for GDPR standard contractual clauses, which are mandated by European Union, is called as data processing agreements, which is mandated from our company to the third vendors, because even our vendors, if they cause the data breach, we are held responsible if DPA is not in place. Another important concept in GDPR is it talks about personal data breach. So personal data breach is a breach of security leading to accidental or unlawful destruction. It could be loss of the data, it could be unlawful updation or alteration of the data, it could be unauthorized disclosure of the data or access of the data, or it could be loss of the data wherever personal data is transmitted or stored or otherwise processed. So examples of data security breach are laptop is stolen. So if you have a laptop which contains a lot of personal data of your customer, you have downloaded it. If it is stolen, it is considered as a data breach. Children's records are accessed by unauthorized person. Emails are sent to the wrong recipient. Emails with personal data, a spreadsheet of personal data, it is sent to a wrong recipient. A ransomware attack resulting in system not being accessible. A record is amended in error. Information is now inaccurate. So all these cases are considered as data security breach. And ideally, any organization should have a process to address the data breach. So data breach they are inevitable. Although you put security controls in place, there are chances that the personal data would be breached from your systems. So what should be the ideal process? Identify the breach. So you should have controls, detective controls to identify when the breach has occurred or how many records of personal data have been breached. Then notify. So this notification is initially internal, but then if you are a data controller, you are also expected to notify to the supervisor authority about the data breach. Document the breach, document the root cause of the breach, investigation steps, and then communication with the data subject. So controllers, GDPR says that controllers to notify a supervisory authority within 72 hours of the data breach after they get to know about it, and processors ideally should notify the controllers without undue delay after becoming aware. So usually data controllers in their contract mention that data processor should be informing about any suspected or actual data breach within so and so time. So the processor need to comply with that contract. GDPR was also, many organizations were worried about rollout of GDPR because of the fines and penalties GDPR has advocated. So one category of fine is 10 million euros or 2% of global annual turnover of the organization, whichever is higher, especially if there are complaints related to child consent. There are complaints related to data protection by default and by design. So if your product is designed in such a while your product development and design, you haven't taken care of data privacy requirements, even in that case you would be fined. Processing excessive personal data, that violating the data minimization principle, the organization could be fined. Data protection officer is not identified, responsibilities are not identified, even in that case there could be fines. Another set of fines could be 20 million euros or 4% of global annual turnover in case of basic principles are violated or conditions of consents are not met or data subject rights could not be addressed. So again, these fines, what supervisory authority, once they receive a complaint, what they do is that they investigate, they identify what is the root cause, who was in which controls were not implemented, if data controller has implemented adequate controls or not, and based on that they decide on the fine. GDPR also gives the data subject right to lodge a complaint with supervisory authority if processing of personal data infringes regulation, right to judicial remedy if their complaint is not handled or there's no progress report in 3 months. Right to effective judicial remedy against a controller or processor, or right to compensation and liability from controller or processor. Only in so there's no liability if processor or controller are they are able to prove that it is not their fault. So in that case, there may not be any penalty involved, but otherwise the compensation involved, but otherwise there could be a compensation. So as we discussed, GDPR penalties are not just because of data breach. Data breach is one of the reasons organization could get the penalty, but it could be because of inappropriate consent. It could be because of privacy by design is not followed. It could be because of non-compliance with data subject rights. It could be because of cross-border transfer without appropriate measures. So there are some examples. So in last year, what happened is one of the former hospital workers prosecuted for inappropriately accessing patient records and using it for threatening one of the data subject. So ICO, that's Information Commissioner Office, has mentioned that this abuse of position of trust has caused a significant damage to a number of people. The laws of data protection are there for a reason. So even in such case, if you are inappropriately accessing certain records out of your responsibilities, even in that case, the organization could be fined. A police force was fined because they lost a sensitive recording of a sensitive case. So unencrypted, the recording was kept on an unencrypted desk on an unencrypted disk in one of the officers' desk, and which was stolen, and that's why they were fined. Facebook data breach is more recent. Again, Irish Data Protection Commission has opened a formal investigation in data breach that affected over 50 million Facebook accounts, and the penalty could be very high. Google's fine. So in January this year, French Data Protection Authority fined Google 50 million euros, and they said that fine was for breaking GDPR's rule around transparency and having valid legal basis while processing the data for advertising purpose. So this is one of the largest fine which has been applied so far. In fact, Ireland's Data Protection Commission, they have also published a number of complaints which received by them since last year. How much increase was there in number of complaints, how much increase was there in number of breaches. So RiskPro is going to have a seminar tomorrow about the data breaches and the penalties which happened over last year, which you may want to attend. So in case, since the penalties are very high, how should the organization comply with GDPR? So one of the things which organizations should do is that understand the GDPR principles. We spoke about 6 GDPR principles organizations need to know. One is what is their role if they are a data controller or a data processor, and they should understand how these principles would apply to them. Organizations should also have a website privacy policy which will talk about which data they are collecting or processing, whom are they transferring to, what are the purposes of processing, who is the point of contact for resolving the privacy related concerns. So GDPR talks about having certain minimum details covered in the privacy policy, and organizations should have their privacy policy or privacy notice on the website designed in that way. GDPR policies and procedures templates. So we spoke about various things like having a process for data breach reporting, having a process for consent, having a process for appropriate privacy notice. So having a process for security, information security management system. So ideally, organizations should list out what are the policies, what is it that they do, what are the data policies and procedures they need to have, and they need to work on establishing them. Data inventory is one of the most important concepts in GDPR. What GDPR says is that irrespective of your role, controller or processor, identify what personal data you are collecting or processing, where are you getting it from, where are you collecting it from, where are you transferring it to, how are you protecting it. Are you transferring it to outside the country? Are you using any security mechanisms to protect it? So the start to end flow of the data map, it needs to be established by the organizations. That's data inventory. So based on this data map, you can decide what are the policies and procedures which you need. If you are using any third parties for processing, you need to have data processing agreements and contracts with that third party. Retention policy is one of the important policy which GDPR principle talks about. What GDPR also talks about minimizing the data in same data in multiple places. So if the organization is processing certain data, then they also need to, the data map or data inventory would also help them in identifying where exactly the data is stored, and so that they can minimize the data storage of same data in multiple places, which will eventually help them in implementing right for erasure if required. And most importantly is privacy training to the staff, especially to those who are handling the sensitive data, special category of data, or any other kind of personal data. They need to be trained on their roles and responsibilities. What are the tips which we can give, which the organizations can give to the users? So one of the most important things is for the users to understand that all information which you are handling, it has a value. You need to share it appropriately. It only the authorized IT systems need to be used to process it. So let's say if your organization has given you a laptop, ideally use that for processing the personal information. primarily because organizations would have security mechanisms, security controls, so to ensure that system cannot be breached. Uh, the users should also be aware about reporting of the data breaches, handling how to handle the data subject request. So there should be a process which would tell the users that in case they receive a request from data subject about access to the data or portability of the data or erasure of the data, they need to know what process they have to follow, who in the organization need to be contacted. Similarly, for reporting the data breaches, what is the security incident, data breach incident reporting process in the organization? What are the steps to be followed? How should following a breach? What are the which policies need to be updated? So the related concerned teams who would be working on the reporting and managing breaches, they need to be aware about these processes. So having spoken about what organization should do, what are the processes organization should implement, I'd also like to take a moment to brief you about the services which RiskPro provides. So RiskPro provides a service of GDPR maturity assessment or gap analysis, where we review current practices against GDPR requirements. We conduct full data audits. We create a data map or a data inventory, which will tell you the life cycle of the data. We also help in establishing frameworks to address GDPR. So when I say framework, it could be framework like security management system, policies and procedures to address the GDPR requirement, and we align it with the industry best practices. We also help in preparing the transition map, a roadmap to smoothly implement once GDPR is in place. We also help in defining the privacy policy for the organization. There are chances that many of the organizations already have frameworks such as ISO 27001 in place or Privacy Shield in place. So in such cases, we identify what are the additional things which you will have to do to comply with GDPR and help you in implementing that. We also give you a tool for self-assessment so that you can carry out a self-assessment and review your readiness against the requirements. So once you self-assess, or once we assess your implementation, we also provide the certification report. We can provide data protection officers on retainership basis to help the implementation. So these officers or these individuals can visit your organizations a few days in a quarter or few days in a month, and based on requirement of the organization, and help you in ensuring compliance with the GDPR requirement. We also conduct one-time or periodic privacy impact assessment. So GDPR talks about data protection impact assessment, which is a risk assessment against or risk assessment with respect to data subject rights and principles which GDPR mandates. So RiskPro can conduct these periodic privacy assessment. If you're launching a new product or new service, ideally a data protection impact assessment needs to be conducted, which we can help you in conducting. Our retainership model is, we already spoke about it. It's through which we provide the support, offline support through phone or emails. We research on a specific scenario. We review personal data collection, your data inventory, data maps. We review the core business processes, product designs, and suggest recommendation. So this is one of the things a lot of organizations are looking out for. So with this, we'll conclude this discussion, and we open for questions. Any questions? Okay, so one of the questions is, will the personal email address would be considered as personal data? Yes, and in fact, what I would like to add over here is a lot of marketeers. They think that the data which is used for B2B marketing is cannot come under GDPR, but GDPR also has strict rules for these direct marketeers. So yes, email address would be considered as personal data. Would GDPR apply to companies outside EU in processing its staff or customer data who has attained EU citizenship? So yes, it applies to EU residents, EU, so it will apply. How are the laws such as CCPA different from GDPR? So CCPA also is based on similar data privacy principles. There is not much clarity on CCPR. So GDPR has got is much more encompassing as compared to CCPR. CCPR would apply only to the consumers in California who are currently in California or who were in California for a certain period. So the directive on it, on other principles on how it will be applied, that is not yet cleared. It will be applicable from next year, January. Okay, the last one is, if the company collects or process EU data and it got compromised due to zero-day attack, should I pay fine? Yes, you would be susceptible for the law for the lawsuit by the supervisory authority. So as I was saying earlier, supervisory authority typically verifies what kind of controls you had in place, if you have been meeting all the principles, GDPR principles or not, if you have been transferring the data without data protection agreement, or so based on these various criteria, the fine would be decided. The applicability of GDPR if data subject is not in EU but is an EU citizen, yes, GDPR would still apply, because currently if the person is not in EU, that person can go to EU any time. So it applies to EU citizens as well as EU residents. And if the company is in bad financial state at that time, how would fine be collected? I think supervisory authorities would have appropriate mechanism to enforce the fines. So there's no one answer to that. It would depend on how supervisory authority would decide to enforce the fines. Visiting cards of EU people, how do we process? So visiting cards would still be under GDPR. The data on the business data on the visiting cards would still be under GDPR compliance. It is advisable that there are chances that you would collect the visiting cards, but then you, based on those visiting cards, you start B2B marketing, then it is advisable to follow the GDPR rules for especially for marketing. So there are rules related to GDPR, and then there's something called as PECR, Privacy in Electronic Communication Regulation. So it tells you for initial, if you can contact initially or not, and how can you contact initially, and initially after you contact, if the person withdraws the consent for a contact, how you should withdraw the consent. So yes, this data, any data of the EU personnel need to be we need to have a process to we need to have appropriate process so that we do not violate the GDPR regulation. Um, Anita, do we have any other questions?
No, that is all.
All right, thank you then. Uh, Thank you everyone for your time, and RISPRO is also organizing few more webinars today as well as tomorrow. You might want to have a look at the webinar schedule and join them. So the webinars are about how to implement how GDPR can be implemented within a small budget, the fines and penalties of GDPR. So if these topics interest you, do join these webinars. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, everyone.